Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people, welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel. I react to news and live events of different sports. So I kindly ask that you hit the like button and the subscribe button, as that will really help this channel grow. And to ensure you don't skip a beat, click the notification bell as well. That way you can guarantee that you don't miss any of the action. Alright, so let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people, I recently made a video in light of UFC Fight Night Adesanya vs Imavov, where I looked at Israel Adesanya's UFC career and basically analyzed every fight he had from his debut up until his last fight, leading up to him facing Nassourdine Imavov this weekend. Now the video should be in the corner right there, so if you haven't watched it or if you want to revisit it, you can just click on that link and it will take you to the video. But today I'm basically doing the exact same, except this time obviously for Nassourdine Imavov. But how did his career play out till thus far? And where did it start? What is his record? In-depth analysis regarding his strengths and his weaknesses. So when looking at Imavov's UFC career, he has had 10 fights inside of the UFC. He has won 7 fights, he has lost 2 of them, and he has had 1 no contest. And he debuted all the way back in 2020. Where he fought his first fight inside of the UFC against a guy named Jordan Williams. Now, when looking at Nassourdine Imavov and looking at his skill set, right, he is a really good striker, but he's not a counter striker, so he likes to set the pace, right? He likes to dictate range, where most of his striking is offense based, where he decides when he wants to close the gap, where he decides when he wants to engage in striking, and doesn't really rely on being a counter puncher. But technically, he's a really good striker, right, with incredible speed. And when we saw his debut against Jordan Williams, we saw all of his skill sets basically come to life, where he is an incredible striker and he has somewhat good wrestling, but he doesn't really bank on it. And when he is in a wrestling transition, when he is in an exchange, whenever he gets the opportunity to try and submit his opponent, he will go for it. He goes for a lot of submissions in his fights if given the opportunity. And he basically beat Jordan Williams in his debut by unanimous decision. Basically dominated him. Then he went on to his second fight, where he fought Hawes and ended up losing. And whenever we see Nassourdine lose a fight, we see in the next fight, he immediately tries to rectify what he thought to be his liabilities in a fight he lost, where he tries to basically say, hey, listen, I worked on my weaknesses, and try and showcase just how much better he got with regards to his somewhat liabilities. So in the Phil Hawes fight, we saw Phil Hawes basically taking Imavov down at will. Whenever Hawes felt like it, he took Imavov down, wrestled him, controlled the fight, and won by a decision. So in the next fight against Heinisch, we saw Imavov try and rectify those mistakes and basically try and showcase that he's working on his weaknesses, because we saw even Imavov basically taking Heinisch down. Now, even Heinisch, being built like a fridge, is someone that isn't as easy to be able to take down. But we saw Imavov not only showcasing a dominant striking, but also showcasing his skills basically being honed and ensuring that he sharpens his tools. And we saw him beat Heinisch via KO punches in the second round. Then moving on to his next fight, he fought Shabazyan, right? The prodigy, the kid in the middleweight division, a lot made out of Shabazyan. And we saw Imavov dominate him as well. Dominate him on the feet, dominate him in striking. We saw Shabazyan going for a takedown, and basically Imavov reversed the takedown, ended up on top, then ended in a crucifixion position and basically finished the fight with elbows. Gruesome. Just a barbaric fight that you would enjoy revisiting it. Then we saw Imavov take on Buckley. And this is a Buckley in the middleweight division. So remember, Buckley usually jumps from middleweight to welterweight, and that's basically the 2 weight classes which he fought at. When now he's an established welterweight and probably will be fighting at welterweight in the foreseeable future. And this is the first time where we saw one of Imavov's other liabilities come to fruition and show its face, where Imavov dominated, completely dominated Joaquin Buckley in striking for the first 2 rounds, where it looked like a mismatch from the get-go. He was outstriking him, and this is an Imavov. The guy's 6'3", but he has a shortish reach for a guy who's 6'3", right? He doesn't have incredibly long arms. I mean, Joaquin Buckley is 5'10". He has longer arms than Nassourdine Imavov. But even with that being said, the pace at which Imavov strikes, the way that he closes the gap, basically throws a 1-2, one of the quickest 1-2s you'll ever see in your life, and then hops out. Or even stay there, throw a 1-2, throw maybe a hook and an uppercut, and then exit. And it's incredible speed. And he basically did that to Joaquin Buckley for the first 2 rounds. But then we saw one of his other liabilities show its face. And that is his pace. Right? He put on an incredible pace in the first 2 rounds. But in the 3rd round, gave a lot of opportunity for Joaquin Buckley to actually come back in the fight and could potentially have won the fight had he knocked out Imavov. Now obviously we're not dealing in hypotheticals, he didn't win the fight, but leaving that opportunity for Joaquin Buckley, who has a lot of power, is somewhat dangerous. And then we saw that liability getting exposed in his next fight, where he fought Sean Strickland. Now at the time, it wasn't the buzzsaw Sean Strickland we have right now. So Sean Strickland was ranked number 7 in the middleweight division, and Imavov was ranked number 12. So he went on to face Sean Strickland. This is a Sean Strickland that was on a 2-fight losing streak. A Sean Strickland who lost to Cannonier and previously got knocked out by Alex Pereira. It's not the Sean we get to see today, right? So Imavov fought Sean. And in typical fashion, this is basically where Sean's resurrection of his career started, where he beat Imavov, went on to beat Albus Magomedov, and then went on to beat Izzy, becoming middleweight champion. But we see Sean Strickland fight prolific kickboxers, and their style basically being nullified by Sean's Philly shell and his high guard. And we saw the exact same thing when he fought Imavov, where Imavov wasn't able to really dictate and put his stamp on the fight. Reason being is because he fought on the back foot for the entirety of the fight, where Sean Strickland basically just walks forward. So you basically either have to walk forward and fight him in a phone booth, which no kickboxer wants to do. They want to have range because of the kicks, because of being able to quickly enter the pocket, land a few punches, get back out of it. Where with Sean's boxing dominant style, he basically wants to fight in a phone booth, and he will walk forward until he pushes you up against the cage. That is exactly what happened, where Imavov couldn't get going and Sean just basically moved forward. And as previously mentioned, if there was ever a kickboxer who could actually make a living fighting off his back foot, it'll probably be Izzy. Seeing that Izzy is one of the best counter strikers we've ever seen in the sport, where Imavov isn't a counter striker. But Imavov wants to set the pace. He wants to move forward. He wants to initiate striking exchanges. And we basically saw what Sean did to Izzy happen against Imavov way earlier. And another liability was Imavov started slowing down rounds 3, 4, and 5. So you can really see Sean's pace wearing on him. And not only that, we saw Imavov getting pushed against the fence in a grappling exchange, basically wearing him out. Sean having incredible cardio, he wore Imavov out by pushing him against the fence and basically just having a little grappling exchange, wearing Imavov down. And that is a glaring weakness, because we saw from then on, every single fight Imavov had after Sean, his opponents tried to expose that exact same thing which Sean did. Right? Push him against the cage, make him tire himself out, and then he won't be as effective striking. So he went on to lose against Sean Strickland in a 5-round fight, the first 5-round fight he has ever had. Then he went on and faced Chris Curtis, and that fight ended in a no contest because of a headbutt, because Nassourdine Imavov is an orthodox fighter and Chris Curtis is a southpaw fighter, you often see headbutts due to basically the guys not mirroring each other, but their head being on the same line with regards to entries, with regards to weaving, and that basically happened. So then Imavov ended up accidentally headbutting Chris Curtis, and it was declared a no contest because Chris couldn't see in his right eye. And then the reign and the dominance of Imavov basically started, where he went on to win 3 consecutive fights. And it started versus Roman Dolidze, where Roman is also basically a wrestler. And Roman's whole game plan was also to push Nassourdine against the fence and wear him out. But in the first round, Nassourdine Imavov managed to knock Roman Dolidze down and looked like he was going to finish the fight. Right? Put a pace on him and hit him with a lot of strikes. Ended up winning the round 10-8. But then Dolidze managed to come back, weather the storm, and the next 2 rounds were somewhat close. But it felt like Nassourdine won the next 2 rounds. And then in the 4th round, Nassourdine managed to kick Roman Dolidze while his hand was on the ground, meaning that he is technically declared as a down opponent. Right? Nassourdine, not giving a shit about rules, basically kicked Roman Dolidze in the face, and Roman could have stopped. Like he could have said that he doesn't want to continue, he feels dazed, and the fight probably would have been a no contest as well. But props to Roman Dolidze not doing it and deciding that he wants to continue fighting. And in the 5th round, ended up in really good submission positions where you might have been able to submit Nassourdine Imavov. But Imavov basically survived, got out of those transitions, and ended up winning the fight. And then on to his next fight, he fought Jared Cannonier. Now, whenever you fight Jared Cannonier, you're going to be in for a treat, right? With regards to Cannonier striking, Cannonier is a really strong guy. I mean, this guy, at one point in his life, he was a heavyweight, and he came down to middleweight. So he has a lot of power in his punches. And the fight basically started very even, where Nassourdine would get the better of some striking exchanges, then Cannonier would get the better of some striking exchanges, basically going back and forth for the first 3 rounds. But in the 4th round, it felt like Nassourdine somewhat excelled and put a difference between them with regards to striking, and basically elevated his striking game, where he got the better of striking exchanges and managed to knock and basically managed to stun Jared Cannonier, and ended up throwing a lot of punches. The referee stepped in, stopped the fight. Now, it was somewhat controversial because personally I thought Cannonier, just prior to stopping the fight, actually threw a punch. And then after throwing a punch, moving for 4 seconds, the referee stopped the fight. I don't think it was a good stoppage, but you cannot deny that the result is somewhat warranted. Nassourdine did somewhat deserve to win that fight, especially with how he fought in the 4th round. And seeing the other 3 rounds was very close, I wouldn't say it's a robbery. I mean, he did do what's needed to be able to be in that position. So he beat Jared Cannonier via a technical stoppage, but it counts as a TKO. And it's the first time Jared Cannonier has ever been TKO'd. Then he moved on to fight Brendan Allen. Now, remember Brendan Allen talking shit, saying that he'd be able to beat Driggers? Life comes at you fast. Because then Nassourdine fought Brendan Allen in a 3-round fight and basically dominated him, warranting him to fight Izzy this weekend. And when we look at Nassourdine's strengths, obviously a great striker. He's really fast. One of the fastest punchers you'll ever see in the middleweight division. But he is susceptible to low kicks, where against Ian Heinisch, Ian blasted his calf. Now you can imagine Izzy immediately licking his chops, because Izzy basically throws a lot of leg kicks as well. And looking at their fight, Izzy won't exploit the other weaknesses. Izzy won't push Nassourdine up against the cage. Like, Izzy wants none of that. Basically, Izzy wants it to be a kickboxing match inside of an octagon. And looking at it, I think Nassourdine Imavov wants the exact same thing, where Nassourdine is going to be the one trying to set the pace, trying to initiate in striking exchanges, and Izzy is basically going to be the counter striker. So stylistically, you could not ask for a better fight. And I don't want to make a prediction right now, It's going to be one of the best fights we'll probably see this year. Just because how Izzy is defensively set up with regards to his striking, Nassourdine is offensively set up with regards to his striking. Probably won't see a lot of wrestling just because Izzy is really difficult to keep him down with regards to wrestling because he stands up relatively easy. Nassourdine doesn't really engage in wrestling transitions as much and wrestling exchanges in for spectacle. Now, when looking back at Nassourdine Imavov's UFC career, which win impressed you the most? Let me know in the comment section, I would really appreciate it. And do you think Nassourdine Imavov stands a chance to beat Israel Adesanya, especially when it's a kickboxing match? Let me know.